It was a gray Monday morning when Ms. Rayna Cole stepped out of her midnight blue Lexus and onto the cracked pavement of Lincoln High School. The sky hung low with a promise of rain, casting long shadows across the neglected front lawn, littered with fast food wrappers and cigarette butts. The building loomed ahead like a relic from a forgotten war, graffiti-stained walls, rusted window frames, and a sagging American flag flapping listlessly in the wind. Most would take one look and turn around. But Rayna didn't flinch. She stood, tall, clothed in a sharply tailored blazer the color of Cabernet, heels clicking with every confident step she took toward the entrance. Her locks were pinned into a neat, elegant bun that crowned her head like royalty, and her eyes, fierce and focused, swept over the school like a general surveying a battlefield. At 34, Rayna Cole had seen too much to be afraid of a challenge. Inside, the bell screamed like a siren, and the hallways came alive with chaos. Students bumped into each other, cursed loudly, and some blasted music through hidden speakers. A fight broke out between two boys near the lockers, cheered on by a circle of onlookers. A security guard lumbered over too slowly to break it up. Posters advertising detentions and failing test scores clung to the walls with peeling tape. As Rayna entered the front office, the secretary, an older white woman with a tight bun and tighter smile, barely looked up. "You the new English teacher?" "I'm Miss Cole." "Yes," she replied, offering a warm smile. Good luck," the woman muttered, sliding her a rusted key and pointing toward the second-floor wing. "Room 217. In the teacher's lounge, murmurs buzzed. Ms. Sanders, a burnt-out science teacher in her 50s, sipped cold coffee. "Heard the new hire's some fancy Ivy League type. Let's see how long she lasts." "Won't make it to Christmas," said Mr. Lively, a history teacher who hadn't updated his syllabus since 1999. "These kids chew up rookies." But Rayna wasn't a rookie. She had 3 degrees, 10 years of experience, and a fire in her spirit that no underfunded system could extinguish. Still, even she knew this place would test her. As she climbed the stairs, graffiti screamed from the walls. "Suck it, school!" in red spray paint. A locker door hung open like a broken jaw. When she reached room 217, she paused, took a breath, and entered. The students were already there, half-slouched, scrolling phones, tossing paper. One of them, a tall boy with gold chains and defiance in his eyes, smirked. "Yo, check out Miss Michelle Obama over here." Laughter exploded. Someone threw a spitball. A girl in the back snapped a gum bubble and rolled her eyes. Rayna didn't flinch. She set her leather bag down, wrote her name in crisp cursive on the board, Ms. Cole, and turned to face them. "I am not the one," she said calmly, voice rich with velvet and steel. "You don't know me yet, but you will, and when you do, you'll remember today as the day everything started to change." Some students chuckled. Others went quiet. The boy with the chains raised his eyebrows. The room shifted, but then came the first prank. As she turned to grab a marker, her chair collapsed beneath her, sabotaged. She hit the floor hard. Laughter erupted like a wildfire. Rayna got up slowly, dusted herself off, straightened her jacket, and smiled. "Good," she said. "Now I know exactly who I'm dealing with." The laughter stuttered. She looked each student in the eye, not angry, just seeing them. "Let's begin," and so she did. Poised, unshaken. The storm had started, but Rayna Cole was ready to teach in thunder. Word spread fast. By lunch, Ms. Cole had become the main event at Lincoln High. In the cafeteria, a trio sat like royalty over their plastic trays. Trey, the self-proclaimed king of the school with his designer shoes and cut glass. Swagger. Zaria, the queen bee with venom in her smile and influence that slithered through the hallways. And Marcus, bigger, quieter, dangerous, only when provoked. "She didn't even flinch when the chair broke," Marcus said, stabbing at his fries. "She's got that I wish you would look," Zaria said, flipping her pink braids. Bet you $5 she quits by next week. Trey smirked. I give her 3 days. She thinks she can walk in here like she owns the place. Nah, she needs to be reminded where she is. They planned it all. Snide comments, fake notes, sabotaged. Materials. Trey slipped a dead mouse into her drawer the next morning. Marcus started rumors about her online. Zaria organized a walkout in the middle of her lesson, leaving her speaking to an empty classroom. Back in the teacher's lounge, Ms. Cole sat alone. The other teachers didn't greet her. Conversations died when she entered. She was an outsider, and they liked it that way. One teacher muttered, "She'll burn out. They all do." She stared into her lukewarm coffee, not out of defeat, but thought. That night, Rayna drove home through drizzle and dusk, past boarded-up buildings and tired streetlights. At home, she pulled out an old photo from a keepsake box, a black and white shot of a little girl with scraped knees and wide eyes standing outside a crumbling house in Birmingham. She was that girl. Rayna had grown up with roaches in the walls and gunshots outside her window. Her father was locked up when she was 7. Her mother worked 3 jobs. She learned to read by flashlight and fought off bullies older and crueler than Trey, Zaria, or Marcus. At 12, she'd watched a teacher call her hopeless. At 15, she proved him wrong. She earned scholarships, worked nights cleaning offices, and graduated valedictorian. Then Spelman, then Harvard, then 10 years in inner-city schools turning firestorms into classrooms. Now she was here. Rayna looked in the mirror, lips tight, eyes unwavering. They want to fight? Fine. Let's give them a lesson instead. The next day, she walked into room 217 with a new tone in her step. The storm was here. But Ms. Rayna Cole had been raised in thunder, and she was just getting started. It was Friday. The room buzzed with anticipation. Word had gone out. Trey was planning something. Rayna entered room 217 to find her whiteboard smeared with red lipstick. "Go back to Harvard, Queen," students snickered. Trey leaned back in his chair like a king on a throne, arms crossed, smirk wide. "Oh, you're quiet today," Rayna said, walking calmly to her desk. Trey stood up. "We just think you might be better off teaching somewhere else. You know, where people respect you." A low "ooh" rippled across the class. Zaria added, "Maybe someplace you fit in better." Marcus barked a laugh. Rayna walked slowly to the center of the room. She looked at Trey, then the others. And then she spoke. 60 seconds. That's all I need. So listen up. I've been called worse than what's on that board. I've lived in places with rats, with bullets flying past my window while I studied by flashlight. I've walked through schools where teachers were afraid to step in the door. And I didn't just survive. I rose. You think you're breaking me? You're just showing me how much work I've got to do. You want to run this classroom? Cool. Then, run it. But understand this. If you're bold enough to challenge me, you better be bold enough to match my strength, my knowledge, and my heart. And baby, you don't know the half. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make sure you leave this room better than you came in. So if you're scared of that, go ahead and laugh. If not, let's go to war together. Silence fell. Even Trey didn't blink. No one looked at each other. They all stared at her. And for the first time, the room didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a reckoning. Rayna turned, picked up a fresh marker, and began the lesson. Nobody said a word. Not Trey, not Zaria, not Marcus. The storm had met its thunder, and the silence roared louder than words ever could. Monday came like a hesitant echo. The air in room 217 was different, thicker, quieter, no jeers, no thrown paper. Even Trey walked in without his usual swagger, his eyes uncertain as he glanced at the whiteboard. It simply read, "Who are you choosing to be?" Rayna stood by her desk, calm and still. "I asked a question," she said. Some shuffled in their seats. Zaria twirled her pen. Marcus looked down. You all want to talk about real? Rayna continued. Then let's get real. You're not the problem. You're the product of broken systems, of teachers who gave up, of a world that profits off your failure. But I'm not here to babysit brokenness. I'm here to watch you rise from it. A few heads lifted. So, here's the challenge, she said. Prove the system wrong. Prove your record wrong. Prove your past wrong. You say you're tough? Then be tough enough to care about something. About your future. About your voice. She walked slowly between the desks. Every day from now on you show up, you speak up, you work. And I'll be here holding that line with you. Or, she paused, you can sit there and waste every gift you've been given because it's easier to lose than to try. But don't say I didn't offer you more. A beat of silence passed. Then a hand went up. It was Jasmine, a quiet girl, with big glasses and a sketchpad always half hidden in her hoodie. Yes, Jasmine? I want to try. I don't know what I'm doing most days, but I want to try. Rayna smiled softly. That's all I needed to hear. After class, as students filtered out slowly, more thoughtfully than usual, Jasmine lingered. Draw, she said, holding out her sketchpad. Inside were beautiful portraits, pages full of emotion, pain, brilliance. These are stunning, Rayna said. This is your voice, and I think it's time people heard it. Jasmine's eyes watered. No one's ever said that to me before. They will now, Rayna said, starting with you. In room 217, something was shifting. Not a revolution, not yet, but a tremor, deep, quiet, and undeniable, and Rayna Cole was ready to shake the foundations. The tremors of change weren't welcomed by everyone. By Thursday, Ms. Cole was called into the principal's office. Mr. Danning, a tight-lipped man who had mastered the art of passive resistance, looked over her file without making eye contact. We've received concerns, he said, flipping a page. Unorthodox methods, use of music during lessons, raising controversial topics. Some PTA members are questioning your suitability. Rayna didn't flinch. Is this about performance or comfort? He raised a brow. This is about structure. Rayna smiled politely. Then maybe it's time to restructure. Back in room 217, structure was exactly what she was building, but in her own way. She brought in beats and bass, weaving Tupac lyrics into poetry analysis. She had students debate Jay-Z's lyrics versus Shakespeare's iambic pentameter. They read survival stories, then wrote their own. She taught them about systemic poverty, redlining, and real-world resilience. You want to make noise? She told them. Make it count. The students leaned in. Trey, once the clown, stayed after class one day. That stuff you said about housing laws? That's why we moved every year. Rayna nodded. Exactly. And now you know it wasn't your fault, but it is your fight. Zaria wrote an op-ed in her journal about beauty standards in media. Marcus presented on food deserts in urban areas. Jasmine drew a mural sketch symbolizing rebirth, a phoenix rising over broken school books. But not everyone celebrated. PTA meetings exploded with angry whispers. She's politicizing the curriculum. My child came home talking about racism and rent prices. She's too aggressive. Rayna heard every complaint and doubled down. Because for every raised voice in protest, there were raised hands in class. Every small win, an essay turned in, a debate nailed, a student asking for help, was a battle cry. This wasn't just a classroom anymore. It was a war of expectations, and Rayna Cole was fighting it with wisdom, fire, and truth. The resistance was growing, but so was the revolution. The school buzzed with rumors, but room 217 had become something else. A space where masks slipped, even if only for a moment. Students still tested boundaries, but they were listening now. Watching, even Trey. It started with a group assignment. Rayna paired him with Jasmine, and at first he balked. I don't do group work, he said flatly. Rayna looked him dead in. The I. You do now. The project was on family legacies, how the past shapes the present. Trey rolled his eyes. Jasmine, nervous but resolute, suggested they write a poem. Trey laughed. Poems don't fix reality, but something in Jasmine's persistence cracked him open. That night, Trey went home to chaos. His mother was passed out on the couch again, the TV flickering against cracked walls, dishes piled high, his younger sister crying in the next room, his older brother, his hero, serving time upstate for armed robbery. He sat on the floor and opened the notebook he never used and wrote. The next day, when presentations began, Trey stayed silent. But Jasmine nudged him. You wrote it, she whispered. Read it. He stepped up, paper shaking in his hand. My family tree got roots in concrete, no blossoms, just shadows beneath. My brother taught me how to run. My mom taught me how to hide the heat. They say I'm angry, but I'm just tired of being told I'm wired wrong. But maybe I ain't broken. Maybe I'm just a storm in the wrong song. Silence. A stunned kind of awe spread across the classroom. Rayna stepped forward. That's not a poem. That's power. Trey looked up, his armor slipping. You don't get it, he said, voice cracking. They all think I'm trash. I'll end up just like him. That I'm nothing. Rayna moved closer. You're not nothing. You're everything they're afraid of. Intelligent, aware, and unbreakable. But you have to believe it first. Trey dropped his gaze. What? If I don't know how? Then let's start today, she said. That moment changed something. Not just in Trey, but in the whole room. When Marcus made a snide remark in the hallway later that day, Zaria snapped back, Shut up, you heard him, let him be. Jasmine began sitting with Trey at lunch. A few students posted his poem online. It went viral across the school. By the end of the week, someone had written it across the whiteboard in room 217 in bold black marker. Maybe I ain't broken. Maybe I'm just a storm in the wrong song. Rayna stood before it quietly, then underlined it. The class sat straighter. The war wasn't over, but the soldiers were starting to stand taller. It started with a rumor. Marcus had been disrespected by a student from another class. Words exchanged. Pride bruised, fists promised. By lunch, the tension thickened. Two rival groups stood face to face in the courtyard. Backs hunched, fists clenched, voices rising. Students circled, phones raised, ready to capture the latest blow-up. Then the first punch was thrown. Screams. Chaos. And then, Rayna. She didn't yell. She didn't call security. She walked into the center of the storm like it was a classroom. A flying elbow missed her by inches. She didn't flinch. Stop, she said. No one listened until she stepped between Trey and Marcus, who were now face to face, about to strike. Hit him, she said calmly to Trey. If you want to throw away everything you just built, go ahead. But understand this. Violence is easy. Discipline is power. Trey froze, breathing heavy. Rayna turned to the crowd. You think this makes you strong? Watching each other bleed for pride? You're feeding a system that loves seeing you locked. Up, beat down, or dead. She pointed to the phone in someone's hand. You filming? Good. Get this. Real power isn't loud. It's controlled. It's peace. Silence fell. Students began backing away. No teachers had come. No security had stepped in. It was just Rayna, and it was enough. Trey dropped his fists. Marcus spat on the ground but didn't move. Rayna stepped back and raised her chin. We solve problems with minds, not muscles. Anyone disagree? No one did. Later, in the teachers' lounge, whispers flew. She stopped a fight. Alone? The students had another take. She ain't no regular teacher, someone said. That's Coach Cole. The name stuck. By the end of the week, a group of students stayed after. School to talk with her. No grades, no threats, just conversations. Jasmine led a circle discussion on how conflict and trauma shaped their reactions. Marcus, arms folded, sat in the back. But he was there. Rayna watched it unfold, knowing something irreversible had happened. Not a miracle, a shift. C. Turning point. Coach Cole was making waves, and not everyone liked it. She's unorthodox. She doesn't follow protocol. She's disrupting the school culture. The school board called it a formal concern. Behind closed doors, they whispered the truth. She's too bold. Rayna heard the rumblings through back channels. A performance review was scheduled. PTA members began posting online, calling her a threat to order. Rayna smiled. If you shake a broken system, of course it screams. But this wasn't just about her anymore. Word spread fast. Trey heard it first. Jasmine saw his clenched jaw. They want her gone, he said. Jasmine didn't wait. She organized a student forum, printed flyers, created a petition. By Friday morning, she stood at the front of the auditorium, flanked by classmates. "We stand with Coach Cole," she said, voice trembling but strong. "She taught us how to see ourselves. She made us believe we matter. If they fire her, they fire our future." Hundreds signed. Students wore black shirts that read, "Bold is beautiful." A news reporter caught wind. Then two. By Monday, the front gate was lined with students chanting, "Coach Cole stays! Real change scares fake leaders." Rayna walked through them silently, humbled. Inside the boardroom, suits shifted uncomfortably. The superintendent frowned. "You've stirred." "Quite a reaction," Rayna replied. "Growth is messy. But these kids aren't afraid anymore. You should be proud of that." An aide passed her a printed tweet. Jasmine's photo, megaphone in hand, was being shared by national youth justice advocates. Coach Cole. Students lead. The way change had come. The test wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to them all. Spring settled in, and the school began to feel different. Subtle, but real. Marcus, once the loudest in every room, stayed after class with a notebook clutched tight. He approached Rayna slowly. "I wrote something," he mumbled. "It's for you." She nodded, and he stepped forward, reading aloud. "Didn't. Asked to be saved, didn't think I was worth it. But then came Coach Cole, told me I deserved it, taught me I'm more than rage and reaction. That silence can be loud when it's filled with intention. She ain't just a teacher, she's a mirror. Showed me my power, made my truth clearer." Rayna's eyes welled. The class was silent. Marcus sat down, ears red, heart wide open. Later that week, Zaria, sharp-tongued, no nonsense, barged into Rayna's classroom, holding a letter. "I got it," she shouted. "Full ride to Howard, for journalism." Rayna pulled her into a hug. "You earned that," she whispered. The announcement crackled through the PA system that Friday. A school-wide assembly. Students filed into the gym, confused. Trey took the mic. "I was wrong," he said. "About everything. About Ms. Cole, about myself. I tried to break her because I was broken. But she didn't bend. She built." He turned to her, voice raw. "Thank you. I see now. I really see." Then, one by one, students stood. Jasmine, Zaria, Marcus, then others. They walked to the center of the floor, and they knelt. "We were the storm," Jasmine said. "Now we're the rebuild." They raised their fists, not in anger, but in promise. Rayna stood in the center, surrounded, eyes brimming, not broken, not even close. This was redemption. 1 year later, the halls of Eastwood High were barely recognizable. The graffiti was gone. The lockers were no longer targets for pranks or fists. Grades had soared, attendance had improved, and the violence that once defined the school had plummeted. The community was changing, And it all started with one woman who refused to back down. Rayna Cole stood by the window of her classroom, watching students collaborate on a project, their laughter echoing through the once silent corridors. The boy who used to lead the Bullies now helped younger kids with homework. Jasmine was preparing for her college interview, beaming with confidence. Even Trey was organizing peer counseling sessions. The school board had noticed. Offers had come, promotions, roles in administration, even a superintendent position. But Rayna knew where she was needed most. She smiled softly and turned back to the classroom, where her students were waiting. "They tried to break me," she said quietly. "But instead, I broke the cycle." And with that, Coach Cole continued her mission, not just to teach, but to transform lives.